Here we go.
Hey everyone, welcome to Checkpoint Achieves The Last of Us Spoilercast. Today we're going to talk about The Last of Us, this game we've played through in the last couple of days, gotten our fair share of experiences from it, and we're going to share all our thoughts about this game with many spoilers. So if you've not finished The Last of Us, turn this off, save it for another time, come back and listen to it later. We're going to talk about the story, the gameplay, the ending of it as well, and I'm Bryden Kex. I got with me here today Gage Paul.
Hi.
And Mike Leahy as well.
Hello.
And let's start off with just initial impressions of this game, because, I mean, Naughty Dog really hit it out of the park with this game. I think that's what we have to say first off, because, Gage, you're not as big of a fan of the Uncharted series, but that's one of my favorite series from this generation, and, I mean, I was very excited for The Last of Us, but I tried to come into this game a little bit more just tempered, just kind of expectations for it. I knew it was going to be a really great game, but I didn't want to get super excited for it. Tried to media blackout as well. Tried to avoid those big stories.
I pulled that off. So.
Yeah, and it really paid off, right?
Good, yeah,
that was one of the best parts about it. And I think that we can all agree that, like, from our experience of this game, we might have taken away different things, but it really resonates. Like, it's one of those games that you play through. It makes you feel not necessarily the best at times. Like, there's points where you're like,
I want to quit, but I can't.
Yeah,
like
it's a level of.
I was never like that. I kept wanting to play.
I was always in this mindset like this is a struggle, and I'm just like tired.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, okay, I can't take another person dying, so I'm gonna take a 2-hour break.
It's one of those things with this game that, like, I think you, maybe, Mike, you feel a little bit different about that. I'm kind of similar to you on that, where I played the game, I wanted to continue experiencing the story, but there was points where I was really, like, I was mentally exhausted, and just, like,
like, you're just emotionally and mentally just like, okay, I need a break.
Yeah, back to world that is not in complete shithole. But it does such a great job of that, and the characters overall are one of the main reasons for that really standing out.
There's not a single bad character in this game. Every character seems to have some sort of backstory, or like meant to have some sort of backstory. They're all well voice acted. They're all well animated. There's not like any character that's, or really NPC or anything that's done half-assed.
Yeah, like everybody in that story, it feels like they contribute to the overall final, game, or not necessarily, maybe it doesn't contribute to the ending of the game, but just like to the experience, because it's that building process throughout this game where I felt like every meeting and person that we met, because it was very rare that you actually met people in this game. Like, there were obviously multiple different characters, but you spent a lot of time on your own, and when you actually met up with those people, it was worthwhile and actually meaningful.
I thought you met up with people a lot more than I had thought you would, because I can say stuff, right?
Yeah, no, just go ahead. Feel free.
Because you meet up with, like, originally you're with Tess. Yeah. Right? And then you meet up with Marlene.
Yeah.
And then you meet up with Bill. And then there's Henry and Sam. And then there's your brother. And then there's a little bit of a part where it's just you and Ellie. And then you're back at the Fireflies. So I thought you're not as alone in the world as I had thought you would be in the game.
That's actually one of the things that I think was a good thing about the game.
Oh yeah, sometimes it added more, like, it added to the story. It'd probably get pretty boring if it was just you and Ellie the entire time.
Yeah, and there's points in the games too that, not necessarily this one, but there's other points where it's like, okay, we're gonna separate now, and you have like that sequence where you're all by yourself and you're working through these catacombs or something like that. There's no real building of the actual story, and it's just continuous fighting, and that really kind of dulls down the experience. This game kept feeding you big parts of the story, and having Ellie there all the time talking to you really gave this game the opportunity to, build on that, build on what was going on, and she was always giving input. She was always talking about what was happening in the game.
Even when there was enemies all around.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was interesting, too, is there's a lot of moral dilemmas in this game, but you never really make a decision, but you don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it never really crossed my mind. This game is, like, I'm going through the story of this game. There's no like, do you want to kill this guy or not? Other than like random people.
Yeah,
there's nothing like that. That's like story changing that you make a decision, but it never really bothers you, right?
No, it doesn't. And I think the one that the apex of this game is, and we'll jump more into this later on, but like when you're actually in the hospital and you have those 3 surgeons in the room, that was the one moment where I was thinking, is it going to give me an option to not kill these people? And I stood there for like minutes waiting.
I did too. I was like pointing the gun at the guy with the scissors in his hand.
I was like
that
was the one time I used the flamethrower in that game. I was like, nope.
I pointed my gun at him for like a solid minute.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I just walk up to Ellie, is he gonna try and attack me?
Yeah, there's like...
And then I decided, fuck it, and then shot all 3 of them.
I only shot one of them.
Yeah, I only shot one of them.
No, I shot all of them.
Deal with this mess.
And then then like the last girl, there's like a girl surgeon. She's like on the ground. She's not fully dead. And I walked up and popped one in her head.
You embodied Joel as a character, as a crazed psycho guy.
Yeah. Well, he's not a crazed psycho guy. He's a survivor.
It was either him. Crazy. It was either me or him. He says that early on in the game.
He's not crazy.
Well, I guess not really with the surgeons.
I don't think he's crazy, but he is. This is the thing that I think one the big points of the game.
This is going to be the biggest debate. I can already tell is Joel really that bad or is he really that good?
This is my take from this game in regards to that, is that you're meant to feel like everybody is very much morally gray.
Yeah, that's
you're like, are you the bad guy for attacking these people, like the hunters? Is that, I know, like in the end they portray David as a bad character that you're supposed to dislike and happy to see him die.
There's actually a point where when you're playing as Ellie, and you're overhearing him talking, and it sounds like he's talking to his wife or something. So like these guys have families. They're like. Nobody is completely bad.
And there isn't. And I'm not saying Joel's a bad character either. I'm saying that he does some stuff in this game.
And when we say bad, we don't mean like, he's a shit character.
If you try and look at this game in black and whites of bad and good, you're looking at it wrong. The whole point, especially with the ending, I'm not going to give it away right away. We'll get to it. But it's all morally gray.
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning, actually.
I get that.
Yeah,
too. I'm
just looking around.
Disputing that.
No, we're on the same page in regards to that. Let's start.
But Bryden said he was insane, and I don't think he's insane.
He's angry in that moment, and he's willing to like do shit he wouldn't normally do, like kill a surgeon who's innocent.
There's points in this game where I felt like Joel at the very beginning of this game, 20 years later. I'm not talking about the very beginning, but you see him as a calculated person that is trying to survive in this world.
Yeah.
And his want to have Ellie and not lose her again changes that type of aspect of his thinking, and he really starts doing things later on in this game that, yes, he's doing it in just trying to survive, let's say, but also he's just trying to get Ellie back. He's just trying to do the right thing, and in his mind he's being selfish, but he's really...
He is being selfish.
There's when he tortures those people.
Yeah, that's a perfect scene of showing, like, he is just so determined.
He doesn't care.
Fuck you, man. He told you what you wanted. I ain't telling you shit.
That's all right. I believe him.
No, wait!
He loves Ellie, and nobody's taking her away from him.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Is he's not going to let anybody, no matter what the reason is, nobody's taking away his daughter, even though she's not really his daughter.
Yeah, and I think the part that's really cool about this game is there's lots of really interesting facets to how the story develops, right? But Winter plays a massive role in changing how Joel acts as a character, and like. The change from him in Pittsburgh to how he, talks to her when they get to Salt Lake City is completely different. It's very much at the beginning there, just like, come on, keep on moving, she's telling him jokes, she's saying stuff, and he's usually just brushing it off. When they get to Salt Lake City, he's very much kind of like saying, after this, I'm going to teach you how to play the guitar, and then, we're going to go do this and that.
How to swim.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's all that type of, like, that bonding going on there where he's officially opened up his heart, if you want to say that.
I think the sort of point where that happens too is when they're driving in the truck.
Yeah.
Before they get like that whole sort of act, you could call it.
Yeah, like their seasons are very much like part one, part two.
Not the season, but you know how they get the truck from Bill.
Yeah.
And then they're driving, and then they're ambushed.
I think they get closer at that point, but I don't think they get as close.
But through that whole thing, because there's that whole sequence where they're trying to get away from those people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That whole part is sort of their bonding part where they... like, there's the part where Ellie saves his life, and he doesn't really react, but then he gives her a rifle to help him out with, right? Yeah,
there's... I think throughout Pittsburgh, you start to see Joel as a character start to warm up to Ellie.
Yeah.
And kind of let his guard down a bit. But I think the real, like, the big point at that was when they were going to see Tommy and she ran off. That whole situation where they're talking in the bedroom.
That was the defining moment where it's like, okay, now they care about each other.
But before that, he was... Yeah.
No, but he's ignoring the way he feels.
That's definitely what I'm trying to say there, is that he, as a character, has finally gotten to that point where he's like, shit, I really care about her. I really don't want to see her have any more harm. I need to cut ties right now if I'm going to, you know, get away from all this. Yeah. Let's talk about the beginning of this game. Because
it is a strong opening.
It is one of the best openings in the game.
I almost cried.
Same.
And
I almost cried. I could feel it in my throat. You know that feeling that you get?
Yeah, and it's dry and it's like kind of
dry, and you can feel the like a lump coming up into your throat, and you're like, yeah, I felt that.
And I think with the beginning of this game, they do a really good job of surprising you. Because I don't think any of us would expect that we're going to be playing as his daughter.
Yeah,
20 years before at the beginning of the outbreak. That doesn't calculate into, oh, I saw a trailer for this, oh, I saw a preview for this. And
well, they could have just started it out after all that, and it would have still made sense.
But it gives it so much more context.
It shows you what Joel's all about, sort of thing.
Without that first 15, 20 minutes, you'd have this character, yes, you start to understand who he is, but that early part of the game just builds so much into who Joel is as a person.
And what just everybody in this world is experiencing, too.
Yeah.
Because
you get an early look.
You see those early horrors that happened.
The people coming out of that theater who are burning alive and things like that.
You see all the early horrors that made people into the survivors that they are and stuff. Right?
Yeah, I think they do, this is their second kind of take at doing something that I thought was really neat in regards to putting you in a situation you didn't expect. So, spoilers for Uncharted 3. If you haven't played Uncharted 3, skip ahead about 30 seconds here. But in Uncharted 3, there's an actual section in the game where you play as Nathan Drake when he's a kid. Mm-hmm. And that was such a neat experience because in that game, you did not expect that to happen. That was a completely out-of-the-blue narrative point.
Kind of a crap experience.
I thought it was really cool. So again, that's differing opinions there. But again, going back to the point that they were able to do something that we did not expect to happen. So back to The Last of Us, when they are able to do this here, I mean, it sets up the tone of the game. And that is such a great opening. And you know the second you're playing and you see this happening, you're like, something bad is going to happen to her.
Not everyone's going to make it out.
Well, you see Sarah, you obviously see Joel as this character that looks like a bit of a, just, rough around the edges, gone through.
He's working class, construction dude.
Yeah,
he's probably some sort of carpenter or something like that.
Salvador.
There's the point though for him, which I thought was really cool, because that built him up as a character that he was at the beginning of the game, very caring for his family. That was the main basis. He tells Tommy to keep driving, not stop for that family, which is indicative of what he does later on in the game as well. He
looks out for his own.
Yeah, that's admirable for him. So
really, honestly, that's pretty realistic. People in real surviving situations and stuff like that, I would imagine the first people you look out for are your family.
Obviously, yeah, that's the connection that you have
being
there.
A hero isn't going to be for everybody, but I think everybody can probably say, if it came down to it, they would sacrifice for a family member, right? Whereas sacrificing for a friend or just some random person is probably not something everybody's going to do.
No, and that maybe in a case in the future is something you build up over time, but not right away. But the point I wanted to make in regards to him, it builds him up.
My point is it really grounds the character.
Yeah, no, it does. And
it makes him a lot more realistic, even though you might not you might be expecting him to be a hero, but he's really not. He's not a hero.
He goes from being a person that maybe is a little bit hard, but he is caring, to when you step ahead 20 years later, he's talking about smuggling weapons, and yes, he's trying to survive, but you've seen this switch kind of flip in this character where he's not, like, this guy's really rough around the edges now. He's lived 20 years of pain.
Losing your daughter will do
He's
that.
killed people now.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on for him.
Well, I think pretty much everybody in this world has killed somebody.
And if you haven't, you're living in a lucky, safe world that's probably not going to last that long for you. So,
actually, I don't think Ellie had killed anybody.
No, she hadn't
before the game started. So
that was
which makes it very interesting.
She builds a lot as well. And let's jump into...
There's a lot of character development in this game. Like, a lot of character development. So that's, like, the whole story is them growing.
Yeah. And it builds off these characters that are, you know, really performed to a T. Like, the mix of the actual character animations, the actual voice acting, and how they are played out in these environments.
Well, there's points where they look like real people.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene with Tess that I remember, right? She gets bitten, right? And then she's going to sacrifice herself for Joel and Ellie. And there's a point where she, like, goes up close to Joel, and she actually, in my opinion, looked like an actual person there.
Yeah, there's several moments in the game where you get caught up in these moments, right? Yeah. They're so emotional, where that was one of the best moments in the game where you can kind of tell that Tess is going to die in this game, because...
Well, yeah, you can pretty much tell.
Immediately. As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, she's not making it.
You've seen, there's been stuff showing off of her, that, like, she's a part of the game, but...
It was the same thing with the daughter, too, Sarah.
Yeah.
Like, you knew at some point she's probably going to die.
And it's built up that way, because it's The Last of Us. It's Joel and Ellie. That's kind of the story that's going to happen to you. They're the constants, and these are the variables that are going to be a part of the story. And even though I kind of knew that was going to happen, that was such a powerful scene nonetheless. Like, how that played out, how that...
It didn't go like I expected.
No, this game does so well throughout it, just to continually throw these curveballs where, yes, you kind of maybe have an idea what might be happening, but it either goes completely opposite to what you thought it was, or if it does happen, it wasn't what you expected it to turn out like.
Yeah, like I expected her to get bitten or something like that.
Well, she got bitten, but you know, like in the end of it all, she did sacrifice herself. So.
Oh, I was talking about Sarah.
Oh, yeah. That was actually a really cool part of it too from the beginning, is that it wasn't the infected that killed his daughter, it was the authorities.
Yeah, it was another human.
Yeah, and that did it. The kind of the whole basis of the story too, right?
It's just like more gray there.
Yeah, and I think the idea for that is that, like, at the end of this game, it's really asking you, does humanity deserve a second chance, right? That's one of the things that's kind of playing around with there, is obviously Joel being a selfish person and wanting to have that daughter-like relationship that he already had lost once. But the whole idea of this, you know, world that has gone so far into shit, that these characters that are around you, do they really deserve the opportunity to go back to this place that was once was? If you've crossed that line, like, all the people that were morally, you know, straight, they're long gone. They're dead. If you wanted to survive, you needed to get down and dirty. You needed to really survive if you were going to make it this far.
Yep.
And that's changed you as a person. I think that's really, like, the thing you have to look at and be like, that's one of the really cool parts of the game. It does draw on cliches of books and, you know, other movies and stuff like that, but done in a video game and done in the format it really isn't something that can hit.
When you're playing the game, it does not feel like a cliche at all.
No, it hits home so well.
Even though a lot of the themes and everything are not original. Nothing really in this game is original.
It really pulls on the road in a way, like that type of story of crossing the world.
Nothing's really original about it.
US.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nothing's really original about it, but it's done so well that it doesn't really matter, because it's breathing new life into these cliches.
Yeah, and the pacing of the game is so strong too. Like, for me, maybe, and this is my personal opinion, but maybe Pittsburgh went on for a little bit too long there. Yeah. But everything else, like winter was a great scene there. I had no clue what was going on. For spring, I really enjoyed going to Lincoln and, you know, that whole interaction with Bill and Sam and Henry as well. That whole experience was quick.
Yeah.
That was yeah, maybe something bad's gonna happen, maybe we're gonna part ways here. But that experience with those two characters was just cut off. Bam. Black screen.
Which part? Sorry,
when Henry and Sam die. And it's like, that's so...
I was expecting that.
I was expecting them to die, but just the way it... Like,
yeah, how
he cuts himself,
and
before he even hits the ground, it cuts.
Yeah.
And I turned the game off. I was like, nope. It's enough of this tonight.
When you first meet them, I was like, the kid's going to get bitten, and he's going to shoot himself.
I didn't see that coming.
I knew it as soon as I saw that this was going to be a characters that you're going to go along with.
Yeah.
I just knew.
And it moves the story along too, because you need characters like that to flesh out the story, flesh out the actual main characters that you have.
It's a classic dilemma in these sort of
zombie things.
Yeah. They're not really zombies, but
I actually I have a weird thing where I don't know, like when I played the game and I've been talking to people about it, saying like, oh, the zombies in The Last of Us. I'm like, they're infected. They're not zombies. Yeah. And it's kind of just like how the game really builds it up, how you really feel about the whole universe too.
Technically, a zombie is like a living dead thing.
Yeah.
Whereas these things aren't necessarily dead. They're humans that have a brain infection that makes them...
You see dead ones from lack of food, I'm assuming, so they're not
zombies, you do. So, yeah. There's a part where you're going through the building there with Tess and Ellie, and there's one that's dead.
It's just now grown into, like, essentially found its place on the wall. And
it's grown into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these things aren't the living dead. They're humans that are alive that have a brain infection that makes them extremely aggressive.
And I think... with that too, it's
and it is passed through a bite, which is very zombie-like.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because the infection's being passed through the blood.
It is, and it's
bloodstream or whatever you call it.
They never really played on that too much though. Like, yes, you saw them feeding sometimes and things like that, but they didn't, like, they tried to separate them from the zombie cliche in a lot of ways. It wasn't like, I didn't feel like, oh, here's the part where they're, ripping off the limbs of that person or something like that.
Yeah. It was more like they're probably eating them because that's what's around to eat.
Yeah, cannibalism, right? That's another big part of the story later on. But
essentially, what it does is makes humans feral.
Yeah.
It's kind of like rabies.
Yeah,
it brings them back to a point, right?
Yeah, it takes away the consciousness as far as we know.
And the building of like how these enemies go from earlier on in the actual process, they're still conscious of what's going on. You can see it, like the actual description of the character or the enemies. The first type of them was that sometimes you actually see them and they're trying to hold themselves back from hurting you. It's like this weird mix of their minds being slowly taken over.
Once they become clickers, they're pretty.
Yeah, clickers is the level where it's like
I fucking hate clickers.
There's some really awesome points in that game where
I'd rather fight a bloater than
I hated the bloaters.
I'd rather fight a bloater than a clicker.
I'm glad they actually didn't use the bloaters too much.
Yeah,
it wasn't overused.
Could have been one of those things where I've seen in other games where it's like, fight the bloater once, fight the bloater twice, fight two bloaters, fight three bloaters, and it gets crazy.
They did do two bloaters, but that was at the very
it was
very
like that's
end.
it. It didn't go crazy.
It could have been like, in BioShock did it well with their thing, but Big Daddies.
Yeah.
It could have been like that, but with bloaters, and it wouldn't have worked with bloaters.
No.
It worked with Big Daddies in BioShock, but
and it's different because in that game, it's very much about, like, you don't have a lot of ammo. You can't take on every enemy in that game.
No.
You have to pick and choose your battles. Like,
there's points in that game where
you have lots of ammo, and you're like, okay, I could take on some people right now.
Yeah.
But then eventually it dwindles. And now you're like, oh shit, I can't really fight.
I have 3 pistol shots, a shotgun shell, and a rock.
Yeah.
Or a brick.
I had 2 experiences with bloaters, minus the end, where one experience with them was an absolute battle where I barely had anything left. I was using everything I could to try and take it down. The other point that I had against them was a point that I had lots of ammo on me. So I had a flamethrower that had lots of ammo. I think it was...
my flamethrower was maxed with ammo because I never used it.
I used it once in the game.
I at the final part there where there was all those guys, I saved it up for that point, and I was very tactical using my flamethrower. I don't know, like, I felt that was kind of a weapon that didn't need to be there. Like, it was very useful, but it was kind of like seeing the flamethrower on his back was kind of funny compared to all these other tactical weapons that he did have.
Well, all the other weapons are like weapons that people would probably have.
They were commonplace.
When you saw people, like, when you'd kill someone and you get like a flamethrower drop, I was like, really? I don't think that person was carrying around, you know, ammunition for a flamethrower. That's kind of, those were a little bit weird parts in regards to that. But the one part I had that was kind of funny is that with the second bloater that I ran into, I think it was in the university where, or I think it was that the third one? That was the third bloater that we ran into. But I essentially set it up that he was sleeping. So I came up to him. I dropped, I think it was like a Molotov cocktail. I forget what it was, but the nail bomb. I had two nail bombs, and then it was nearly dead at that point. I just used a flamethrower. It like barely even moved, and I was like, that was kind of cool, but also I felt like I had too much ammo at that point. I'm very excited to play the game on harder difficulties because I played it on normal.
With the ammo thing, like, yeah, at that point you did, but after you did that, you didn't have as much.
No, like after that point, I was like, I'm a little bit short on ammo now.
So that's the whole choice: is do you want to use your ammo on this, or do you want to save it and wait?
I was happy at that point doing that, but I think the part that I'm really excited for is like entering a room of 5 enemies, knowing that I have 2 bullets in my gun and that is it. Like that type of scenario.
I couldn't if I wanted to. These 3 clickers.
There was a couple points in the game where I was really low on ammo, and I'm like, this became hard. But there's other points where I was like, okay, I'm just going to switch to this weapon. I got 8 bullets there, and, you know, usually it's pretty good with that.
Yeah, there's some points where you're like, just my experience was there were points in the game where you had a lot of ammo, and then you'd be so confident because you had all that ammo that you'd use the ammo, and then all of a sudden you had no ammo.
Yeah.
Right?
I never had an abundance. I was able to, like, I always had, like, a fair amount. Like, I had a clip and maybe a couple more.
Well, yeah, like, I don't mean, like, you had tons, but maybe, like, I'd feel comfortable
enough
if I
to
had
miss a shot and not feel bad.
If I had 10 shots.
Every time I missed a shot, I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
If I had 10 shots in, like, my revolver or something, then I'd be pretty confident with my ammo.
Yeah. It's that different scenario of walking into a room and you're like, I've got easily enough to take these guys out.
There was probably never any points where I had more than 15 bullets for one gun.
Yeah, no, that would be
like
excessive. Yeah, that it never got to that point. But there was points where I was like,
never really got near the point where you had. There was probably always a gun that you had no ammo for.
Yeah, that was definitely true. I think there was a good balance of that there. I want to get to the ending of this game, but there's a couple points that I just want to touch on before we get there. And I also want to get your favorite parts of the game too.
I know it right away.
So, but before that, actually, you know what? Let's jump right into that. Let's jump right in. Is it earlier part or a later part?
It's winter, so if you want to go over some stuff first.
Okay, winter 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit before winter.
Yeah.
we're all kind of feeling that spot there. I've got something different, but that is a great moment too. So what do you guys think of Lincoln? Because I thought it was a nice moment for the game, at least for me. Like I thought Bill was kind of a fun character to run into, but before even meeting up with Bill, walking through that town that was completely empty, going through like the record store, all the narrative that was going on there, I had a lot of fun with.
It was really interesting and fun because like when you're going through the town, there's all these booby traps, and I was like, this is really cool to see the way someone like has decided to set up here.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed that part. It really set up an atmosphere for this world is mostly empty.
Yeah.
I kind of rushed through the part my first playthrough, but I'm on my second playthrough, and I'm taking a bit more of my time going through.
Just experiencing stuff. And
the second time around, I really liked it. First time around, it was like, oh yeah, okay, I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And now I'm going through. So
I had like moments of that where it's funny, like when the narrative pushed me forward, when I usually like to do this sometimes if I'm never really looking at trophies or anything like that or trying to find collectibles. Mm-hmm. If the narrative, like, it feels like I should be going really quick through this area, that's the points that I do. But then there's other points where I kind of just
scavenge around,
really take my time. Like Lincoln was a point that I relaxed. There was other points like the university where I was actually going quick through that place. I felt like in my mind it was like we should be moving pretty fast.
Even though the university, you pretty well can take your time.
Yeah, like
but it just felt like I should be getting.
Yeah, like we're so close to the Fireflies right now. Exactly. Not really, but you know, like that feeling of.
At that time, you think you are.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was cool. I liked the whole seeing Bill's friend, that kind of narrative.
Did you
there.
find the note?
I found the note too.
I did find the note.
Give it to Bill.
Yeah, it was a cool moment because like you can see.
It's like Bill cares that he's dead, but this guy fucking hated him.
Yeah, I think that relationship was actually like I think that
they were gay.
No,
I've heard some people say that. I don't think they were.
No,
I've heard some people
think. Dude, the magazine that she.
Yeah, but he had tons of magazines, and it was just like an unsorted stack.
Stuff in it. The pages are stuck together.
She said that as a joke, though.
And even if it was that, like, it could be a Playboy or something like that, like what?
It wasn't a Playboy. She's talking about things between people's legs.
Oh, okay.
It was definitely.
You didn't notice that? She's like, how do they even walk around with that between their legs?
Yeah, it was definitely a
it was
female's
yeah, it was
Playboy or Playgirl or whatever.
Yeah. That's a funny. I didn't pick that up then.
Yeah.
But
she's like, I want to see what all the fuss is about.
That's good, actually.
That was a funny scene.
Pittsburgh as well. I thought I don't know, like that was the one point in the game where I felt like it was a long part. I actually liked it because it did feel like this is a big city to get through, and it really played out that way. Like it wasn't something where it was like, oh, there's the bridge, gotta get there. Oh, we're there. It was like climbing over these buildings.
Get to this bridge, and even when you get to the bridge, it's
like hot. No.
Well, getting to the bridge is just like part of it, and then you're.
Yeah. I mean,
you get to the bridge, and then there's nothing at the bridge. So it's like, why were we going to the bridge?
I think it was a good part for me because like that was when the gameplay had to shine.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot less narrative going on after you and Tess, split up after you had your whole thing and linking with Bill. This was a point where you're starting to bond with Ellie a bit more, but also dealing with a lot of enemies too, and
dealing with companions that you can't really trust.
Yeah. Well, I was in
because they leave you there, right?
I would have done the same. I think that.
Well, like, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is like they've got their own survival thing going on, right? So that's why, because it's kind of a parallel to what Joel and Ellie are going through.
It is.
So
I think Joel's upset, but he realizes that too.
He gets upset, and Henry says you would have done the same thing, and it's like. He probably would have done the exact same thing. If not even more handedly.
Yeah. He would be like, peace.
Yeah, probably would have stolen your gun too.
And yeah, no, I like that part just because of the fact that like I like just the dialogue that played out between Joel and Ellie. And then meeting those characters, I thought they were cool. Like it was a neat little experience to have there with obviously people that you didn't spend a lot of time with because they left the world pretty quickly, but...
And it was cool seeing Ellie interact with another kid.
Like just the moments that they were having fun together.
How old are you? 14. Me too.
That's such a reaction.
That made me chuckle too.
Yeah, I could totally be like,
I would have said that.
I remember like times where I'd be camping and you like the people next to you
hang out with the older kids.
Yeah. Or just
14.
Yeah, I'm 15 and you're like 13 or whatever. And it's like everybody knows you're not, but nobody
says anything.
Nobody calls you on it.
There's so many dialogue points in the game that are like that make you either chuckle or just like it resonates in that way where you're just like
it just makes everything grounded.
Yeah, it makes it feel real too. It makes me
grounded game.
It immerses you in that world. Yeah. It feels realistic.
This is what it would be like for me in this world too. Like, I probably would have died a lot earlier.
If I was a badass smuggler from Texas.
Yeah.
This is how I would...
Move me into that role, not likely for me. But yeah, so we move on from there. And one of my favorite parts of the game actually was going through the sewers and seeing the whole thing of Ish and like this...
That was so interesting, getting all those notes and everything. Just
like the community there of what that was.
And finding...
So Ish was this person that lived in the sewer, right? And
I didn't find the notes, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Ish was this person that lived in the sewer that was very much like, this is a great place.
Is that when you're with Henry and stuff? And
yeah.
Okay.
And
I know the part you're talking about, but I never really...
You find all these letters from this person named Ish who's like, this is a great place, we can collect people here. He leaves a note for this girl, I think.
But he actually, at the beginning, was saying that I want to be here by myself. I don't want to add anybody in here. And then later on, he's like, well... why should I even live if I can't interact with people? And he said, I ran into these survivors and I'm thinking about bringing them back. And then he does bring them back and they actually start a community.
One of the things that I liked is you find this kid's note and it's our protectors and it's just this guy and then Ish. And it's just this little hand drawing of a guy in like a bulletproof vest or something. and it's just smiling. I was like, oh,
your
that's
thing
nice.
is that you think this is going to be the DLC, which would be really cool to see, like, play as Ish and see him how their demise came.
Yeah, because Ish escapes. You find a note in the town.
Yeah, and
by Ish.
It's neat how that plays out because it's like you can see the building of this little community and how it just got shut down.
And you find those kids who were covered, and it's like they didn't suffer written in chalk or something. I was like, oh. Man. Just
like the actual rooms where they taught the kids to, and there's that one room where you go to where it's just chock full of all these, you know, clickers and just other infected, and you're like, well, I guess that's where all these people
that's
are.
What happened to them.
Yeah, it was sad, but it was really, those are the moments in the game where they really were that deep moment where you're like, I don't even need to have someone tell me what went on here. I can just pick it apart from that thing on the wall, this little note here. The game,
it's subtle.
Yeah, it's done throughout the game, but that was one of the very impactful moments.
Like that throughout the game.
Yeah. University after that was the other main stage of all that.
The giraffes.
The giraffes, that doesn't come yet, but that's my actual favorite part of the game.
The giraffes,
I love the giraffes.
And there's actually tons of little like stuffed giraffes everywhere in the game too.
Is there?
Be finding those,
That's cool. So yeah,
I gotta do more collecting and stuff.
I think we're all gonna go back, and this is gonna be one of those games where I feel like I'm not gonna do it right away, but I want to platinum this game down the road because I like.
Are you gonna be able to though? Because there's multiplayer, and I know
it's not that hard.
I know you're not.
I've actually played about 3 hours or 4 hours of the multiplayer. I really got into it. It's actually a lot of fun. We'll talk about that too, but
we should play some of that later.
Yeah, we'll actually get together and play some of that. That'd be fun to do that. But yeah, I mean like. The university was a really cool part because you know that it isn't the end. It's like one of those moments in games where you're like, this can't be the end yet. There's going to be more to come here, but what's going to play out?
One of the reasons that I really liked the university is, you know, when you're going through you have to unlock a gate, and you go through the dorms and you drop down into this area with tons of spores.
Yeah.
I got through that part without dying or having to retry or being seen, and I was like, I'm finally starting to learn this combat system.
Yeah.
And it's made me feel like I was like, before it was really a struggle, and that was still tough. Like it took me a while. I had to really sneak. I used some shivs that I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But it still made me feel like I was learning and progressing in the game's combat.
It does a good job of really building you up that way, and you start to get better at the beginning of the game, that game was throwing me around. Like, the very first encounter you have with the clickers and the infected, that's like the first actual testing area where you're like, I didn't know that I needed to sneak up on these certain people and do certain things. But then later on in the game, you're such a master, you know, really taking advantage of your environment, using your listening powers to figure out where people are. It builds you up.
That first part I'm thinking of is the one where you're in like the tipping building.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking
When
about?
you drop down there, I died like 5 times at that part.
You just keep dying and it's really frustrating.
It was rewarding for me at the end of that too. Like
after you get through it, it's like, yes, suck it.
It was good too because that wasn't like what the whole game was either.
No, it wasn't like that at all.
You get better at it, and I was worried at that point. I'm like, this whole game's gonna be like this on normal, you know, like I wanted to experience and have a fun time. I want to be challenged, and this game was challenging in combat, but it wasn't to the point that I was bashing my head against a wall or something like that. I got to the point where I'm like, okay, there were points that I did die, but there were other points too where I was able to fight on and, you know, get past parts. So university was really, like, going through all that was interesting, and you knew something was going on there. And Joel gets Tomb Raidered at the end of it all because he falls down and lands on barbed wire.
I was like, oh crap! That was like, ah.
Yeah.
There was blood.
At least they didn't Tomb Raider it though.
Well,
like,
they did.
He just gets up.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, Tomb Raidered, but not Tomb Raidered to the key.
At least it's like, okay, now Ellie has to take care of him,
and he's out for like a month.
Yeah.
That was one of the best parts about the game is when it, again, great cut because it just goes to black. Winter, and you're playing as Ellie, and like that's the best red herring at the beginning of the game, that you're playing as Sarah, that they're saying you're not going to be just playing as Joel, there's going to be other you don't take it that way, but it's like playing as Ellie there, and then like she's just hunting. My immediate thought was like, shit, did they just kill Joel, and am I going to be like, that would have been really crazy if they went that route. And actually I think it was better off that they didn't, because they did a lot of other crazy things in the story.
I'm glad they didn't as well.
Because it wouldn't have been a cliche, but it would have been kind of like that thing where you're like,
would have left like a bad taste in your mouth, like
like it's like the Red Dead Redemption. You're playing as the son afterwards, which is like, what? But then after a while, you're kind of like, oh, okay. But the mixture of playing as Ellie and playing as Joel in that part was very well orchestrated, going back and forth between the two. And you meet David as well when you're hunting in the woods. And the part that I wanted to note on the podcast that was really crazy too, that I didn't get till after looking at the credits, is that was Noel North playing David. And that guy is one, you know, like, he seems kind of nice, but he's a little bit of a wiry, creepy dude in a way. And
kind of like a suspected pedophile.
He does have that vibe where it's just like he looked like, a little bit older, you know.
You can.
He's got a mustache.
Like when you first meet him, you can kind of tell this guy's intentions probably aren't the greatest.
Yeah, he tries to play those like.
And I'm not saying like he is a pedophile or whatever, but I'm saying like it's pretty obvious he's gonna try and pull something on Ellie.
Yeah.
Here. Like he's gonna try and rip her off or something like that.
I like the part when they finish killing everybody and they're sitting by the fire, and he pulls the, you know, things just seem to happen for a reason.
Yeah,
you know,
and then you can really see him. At first, it's kind of like, because you're working together, it's kind of like he's like a sort of weak survivory type guy.
Yeah.
Like
it builds from there. It goes
and then
farther.
all of a sudden he gets really dark.
Lucky? No. No such thing as luck. Now, you see, I believe that everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
I do. And I can prove it to you. Now, this winter, that's been especially cruel. A few weeks back, I sent a group of men out to a nearby town to look for food. Only a few came back. They said that the others had been slaughtered by a crazy man. And get this, he's a crazy man traveling with a little girl.
It's like, we've been hearing about this madman and this girl.
He killed our people.
Yeah, and you're like, I gotta go over to B.
And then you can kind of see it in his expressions that he's like, this is a villain.
Yeah, but he was nice though, and he actually let her go back, give the penicillin to.
Yeah, but he's doing it for a reason, right? Like,
yeah.
Obviously, because they track.
He wanted to find Joel.
Yeah. He did want to find Joel. He also, I think, was trying to build a little bit there for her, because he was trying to get on her good side, bring her back to his camp, and do that whole thing. But
whatever he had intended to.
Yeah,
I think we're not really sure what it's never really clear.
I like to think that initially he was looking for a companion and trying to. Like that way, but then later on it gets a little bit dirtier and dirtier as it goes on. I think at the very beginning it was very much like him just trying to, you know, he really liked who she was and was like.
I think he felt like she could be a useful person to have around.
Yeah, and also there was a bit of that like that he liked her in that, you know, way too. Where initially I think he was going to try and let it toast a little bit, and then he started pushing it a little bit more. He had intentions.
There's cutscenes where, or not cutscenes, but there's parts where you're Ellie sneaking around their town, and I kind of got the vibe because he talks to a woman. I kind of got the vibe that was his wife.
That could be a possibility too.
So,
I mean,
I'm not sure if it actually mentions it, but that's kind of what I got from the way they were speaking to each other. So, you know, maybe his intentions were to have her more as like a daughter, or just like another addition to the town.
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets dark with it because he realizes that she's not gonna just accept.
She's not going this way.
Yeah. And then he gets really weird. So.
But I thought the winter was my favorite part of the game, as a part in the seasonal.
I like the jacket. You wear the jacket too. He looks cool with the jacket on. Joel.
I mean,
Ellie does too.
Like, fall after was pretty neat as well. Like, we talked about the confrontation that Joel and Ellie had when she ran away. Mm-hmm. It was neat seeing Tommy again, too. Like, I liked fall for those type of parts.
Yeah.
But winter was really where I was
liked about fall.
For that part, I think we're skipping over a big part in fall, though, when Ellie brings up Joel's daughter. And he kind of goes like, yeah, you're not my daughter. She wouldn't do that. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Can't just go telling people they're not your daughter.
It was a little weird when he was saying that.
Well, that's the whole. We talked about that a bit earlier. That's kind of when they start to realize that they have these emotions for each other. Like they really do care about each other.
Yeah, there's that connection there.
And Joel, it kind of scares Joel because pretty much everybody he cares about has died.
Ellie's lost everybody that she's loved too.
Yeah.
And
They both have, and that's their connection, right?
Definitely. And I thought it was really cool that Joel continued on, and we did skip over that a bit. Tried to keep going on there, but I actually really liked that part because it was like one of those things where I felt like getting into Fall, I thought there was gonna be a lot more combat because we just went through combat heavy Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and that's what I liked about Fall was it was a bit of a suspension of the whole.
Yeah,
just you having to survive the whole time because you kind of introduced into the safer area with the whole power plant and everything.
And it was the point too where it was like Tommy wasn't even supposed to be there. He was supposed to be farther away. Usually games do the thing where it's like, oh, this character's here, and then you go there and it's like, he isn't. He's actually farther away, and you have to keep going.
Whereas it went the other direction, it's like, oh shit.
I appreciated that too because it was like it was extending, right?
It was a much needed break from the
just the overall
terror of being surrounded.
It was a calming moment in a
it was a calming moment game.
Yeah. Do you guys want to jump back to Winter now, or
yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's jump back to Winter. I wanted to share one of my experiences with this game that makes it awesome to me, and I think we all have different experiences in games that you can say that was a great moment, but my moment, it was like a gaming moment that I like as a video game player. I upped my game like for this one moment. When Ellie died once when we were being attacked by the clickers and the infected in the when you initially meet David, right? And I saw her being like her throat being torn at.
Yeah.
It did not sit well with me, and I'm like, after that I was like, I don't want to see her die again. And the horse dies, you're going through this area where there's actually quite a bit of hunters out there, and going through that whole part there, I didn't die. I did whatever reason, like it became like I would pop up, have one shot, headshot. Like it wasn't like every bullet was hitting.
I think it was a bit easier to kill people as Ellie though. I think it was that.
It was different.
It was a completely different actual setup of what it was.
The rifle you're given against the clickers is way stronger.
Yeah,
than
it
the
seemed
rifle you have.
like before then I didn't even use the rifle. I'm like, this thing's crap, and then it just one shots those.
Rifle's actually my main weapon throughout the game.
Really?
Like I used it to headshot everybody all the time.
Did you upgrade it and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was a big fan of the rifle
because you can upgrade the power on it.
Yeah, that's one of the ones you can upgrade.
Is that what happens when you upgrade the power? Is it kills people with one shot?
Well, it kills the infected with one shot.
Yeah, headshots were always good for the hunting rifle. If you headshot someone, you're good. Pretty much every weapon's like that.
Because I know.
Well, they wear a helmet with a pistol.
It takes two shots.
Yeah. It was the reason why I like the hunting rifle is because I had the extra distance on it. It had a better reticle for actually shooting farther away. But the thing I wanted to jump back to there is I got to a point when I was coming around the lodge, and I still had quite a bit to go. I had gotten her health down to just like this little bar. One more hit and I would have died. And I refused at that point. I'm like, she is not dying. And I had this moment where I just pop, hit two people with headshots that were in completely different directions, came around, stabbed someone in the back, got to this other area, take all these other dudes. And it was a really cool moment for me because just like as playing the game, I felt really strong about her. Like I did not want her to die. And actually achieving that and like getting through that point with her, it was an awesome moment for me because it was like the game made me feel this way and made me step up my game. Like I could have died and just had a checkpoint, but I did not want that to happen. I could have totally just let it go, but it was like I'm not letting her die at this point. And I mean, that's my own narrative that I put on the game. But it was a cool moment.
I bet you saw her die a lot more when she fights David.
I didn't die.
I didn't die at all.
You didn't die? I died like 5 times.
No,
it drove me nuts.
I only died once of her. That's what I meant. Like after that, I was like, no.
Because you know the bar scene where he's like, once he got sneaky, you know how he does that? Like at first he's just walking around and you throw the bottle and you stab him a couple times, and then he starts to like be sneakier. There was a couple times where he snuck up on me and stabbed me in the back as Ellie, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Any scene of her with that was very brutal. I really enjoyed the like just knowing where Ellie was, but then playing as Joel and he's just like hobbling out there. And there's so many points in the game where I felt like Joel was gonna die. Like I thought Joel was gonna die at the beginning of Winter. Like he's injured, and I thought this might be like his last stand to go get her. Later on in the hospital, there was another scene there where it was like he could die here, and I mean. against all odds, Joel continued to live throughout the game. But I thought it was really cool, and I guess we'll get to favorite moments, because both you guys, your favorite moments were...
when you're fighting... What's his name again?
David.
And you finally get him, and Ellie's just, like, beating the crap out of him with machete.
Hacking the shit
and,
out
like,
of his
crying.
head.
And Joel comes in right at that moment and is, like, grabs her and is like, it's okay, baby girl. I was like, oh, that's what he said to his daughter.
The moment where he's like, I finally got her back, and like we talked about that, he did not want, after that moment he was pretty much like at the same point like I was saying with me, I didn't want her to die. For him it was like, I'm not losing her again. We're not going down this road. I already lost the daughter once. This little girl means too much to me now. Yeah. Was that the same for you, like at that moment?
I just loved how she was hacking the shit out of his head there. I was like, yes,
all the stuff that he was doing too, like up until that point, it was very just to have that moment of just like this very, very visceral, like her just being...
Well, she does it like 3 times. I'm like, okay, she's making sure he's dead, but then she keeps going. I was like, Jesus, that...
Well, he kept her in a fucking cage.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Like, it was deserved. And I think the game does a really good job of balancing violence that feels like it's deserved violence, you know? There's some moments that are very just, like, they're gripping, because it's like, when this Sam and Henry scene, that kind of black, that was like, shit, that was, like, him just popping off, and then...
okay. When I already said this, when I first met them, I kind of figured Sam would be bitten, and that would all go down.
Yeah.
But as soon as you see that Sam is bitten, you know exactly what's going to happen. It's not coming out of nowhere. Like, obviously he's going to kill himself.
I didn't see the killing himself
I didn't
part.
see that either.
I did. Like,
no, I mean, we already acknowledged the fact that you were on the right page there. But I mean, moments like... What? I mean, I'm giving you props for like feeling like you knew what was going on there. But I mean, like the same thing with Tess we're talking about. Like those were moments that was like, wow, okay, I guess we're moving on here.
Yeah, I didn't really expect Tess to die that way.
Yeah, I
kind of figured
moments
she would
throughout
die,
the game,
but...
even like Bill's friend hanging himself. Like it,
yeah,
the good points in this game, multiple points in this game where you just see visual things around the environment and you're like, it just soaking it in, right? Mm-hmm. Let's move on to spring, final part of the game, and really cool to get your guys' thoughts on this, because we talked a little bit about the ending, but we haven't actually really hashed it out. So this will be cool to see overall.
How the ending goes.
Yeah, but it was really like my part that I really took from the beginning of the spring. That was the role reversal. Is that Joel was talking about, like we said, you know,
teaching her to play guitar, things like that.
Well, yeah. Now the whole father-daughter relationship is.
He's like, after this, we're gonna do all these things, and you're like, there's not gonna be an after this. Like that was my mindset. Like this is the the sending up there, right? Turns out there is an after this, but for that playing out,
awesome.
Yeah, it is like it just the way it plays out, right? But yeah, it was interesting to see her too, and her being very silent, just like because she's dealing with what she had to go through David and what she did to David too. Highlighted by the moment where they see the giraffes, and she goes back to that childish moment.
Like she's sitting on that bench, she's just mopey. She doesn't come over, and then you boost her up. She drops down the ladder, and she doesn't like place it like she normally does. She just pushes it and is like, "Look at this." I'm like, "No, stop! You're gonna die." And I set up the ladder. I'm like chasing after her. I'm like, "Don't." Come here.
Stay here.
and then I'm like running, and I see this neck. I'm like, is that a giraffe?
Yeah.
That's a giraffe. So I run around the corner, and there's this giraffe. I was like, oh, that's...
Just petting the giraffe, too. And then, like, you can go to that next part where they're in the field, and you can sit there for minutes and minutes. And
it's really, like, good juxtaposition.
Yeah.
And I like the dialogue they have there where he's like, you don't have to do this. I was just like, oh, this isn't...
Yeah, but that was my favorite moment of the game, because it was just, again, there's so many moments.
Foreshadowing there, actually.
Yeah, there's so much in this game that's so just. We talked about the break that we got when we were at the dam, and it was like one of those moments too where it was like I didn't no expectation of this happening, and a great moment where the game literally let you sit there and like it's close at the end of that point. You can feel that you're almost there. But at the same time, too, it's like...
It's the calm before the storm.
Pretty much. And you can take your time there. You go under after that, and you have to deal with a lot of infected.
Yeah.
It wasn't too challenging. Like, at that point, my skills were at the point that I could handle it.
Yeah.
So, the double bloater was a little...
I didn't even kill them both. I was able to sneak past.
Yeah, I actually just threw a couple nail bombs.
Yeah, I threw nail bombs, hid, one of them died, and then I ran.
Well, I threw two, like I used one nail bomb, and it kind of attracted all of the infected in that sort of little area there towards it, and then I threw another one, which just kept them there, and then I snuck by. So
it
wasn't too difficult.
It's a good point to bring up, actually, before we get to the ending, is like, how do you guys deal with situations where you're fighting people?
I want to say one of the things I really liked is I would never restart an encounter.
No.
I did it once at the very beginning, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I would, if I screwed up and they were coming at me, I just tried to, like, if I ran out of ammo, whatever, that's the way I think the game was meant to be played. That's the way I think the developers were trying to, like...
Normal 2 feels like it gives you that little bit of room to play around with that. I think maybe on Survivor and stuff like that, it's going to be the point where I've got 2 bullets, and if I lose...
it's just kind of...
It's going to become a lot more tactical at that point,
hopeless.
But it was like experiencing the story that was playing out in front of you. I actually tried my best a lot to sneak by them. That was one of my weird moments where I actually killed every single infected person in that whole area, which was a lot. I just...
that's a lot of...
I had a lot of ammo at that point. I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to...
Use this.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I used it all up there, and I was really... in that, but there's a lot of other moments too that I was really just like, I'm gonna put that there, put the bottle over there.
That's probably the one moment where I didn't kill anything.
Yeah.
Really.
I
guess. Okay, I shivved stuff and strangled, but I didn't like. There was no open fight in that part for me.
Yeah. The moment actually I wanted to jump back to was when you're going through. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was with Tess. It's the first time that you go into like the store and there's like 5 clickers. That was an awesome moment.
Yeah.
Because I didn't kill. I think I killed maybe one of them with a shiv. And
I killed one when you get up. You're going to the gate and you have to. I think you have to kill it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you actually throw a bottle. I threw a bottle to make him move away. But that was like the earlier room. There was like, this is how you kill them all, and then that was the room. It was like, this is how you sneak by them. You could technically kill them if you wanted to, but that's
I think at that point it would have been really hard to kill.
Yeah, you don't have the options.
You only have like one gun, I think.
And your shivs only last once at that point.
You get the revolver and the handgun, I think.
You have the revolver and the handgun, which aren't the greatest of guns.
Yeah, there's no. You don't have that mass arsenal yet that you can really deal out the damage against these enemies. And like the shiv became a big deal for me because I kept upgrading the shiv so I could have like it last longer, which was important in the game when you got to later parts and try to sneak around. But yeah, there's the part where there's a little bit more platforming there, right? And then obviously trouble happens when you're in the bus and the bus is kind of falling apart and she gets knocked out. You go, this is stupid to me. It was like you're resuscitating her, trying to bring her back to life, and then they knock you out. I'm like, trying to save someone here.
They're,
Yeah.
Probably for the sake of the narrative there.
No, it moves it along, right? That was a moment for me where I'm like, please don't do this to me, game. Because that could have been, I don't think they would have, but that could have been a moment where it's like, well, you went on this big journey and now
she's dead.
Just because you messed up, you done goofed here, and then that would have been. There's a lot of moments where I was expecting something to happen like that, which was cool for me because the game kept surprising me with a story, and then expecting like normal video games usually play out that Joel or Ellie are gonna die and something like that's how video games work, and that's how video game stories finalize what's going on.
I thought Ellie was gonna die.
Yeah.
In that game, towards the end there, when I really did think that she was gonna die.
There's like the battle between earlier on. It's like shit. Joel looks like he's dead in winter, and then like, is he gonna survive through all that? And like I said, the hospital scene too. That was another scene where I was like, it seemed just that he could have been shot down by the Fireflies carrying her out at that point. Like that could have played into the narrative.
You mean like after the surgeons and stuff?
Yeah, like...
But they can't shoot because they might hit Ellie and they don't want to kill Ellie.
That is true, I guess.
They want to kill Ellie, but they don't want to kill her.
What I expected is when they got into the elevator and he was like holding her, and when they got down, I expected him to be like surrounded. So they have no choice but to like...
There was moments there where it was kind of like I just expected that to happen, but you're right. Like it just kept throwing these curveballs where it's like, is this going to be a finality here? Is this going to really happen? You meet up with Marlene again. And I guess we didn't really go over that much at the beginning of the story, but that doesn't really matter because everybody listening to this played the game.
Marlene survives and she gets to the hospital there because she's like the leader of the Fireflies.
Yeah, and you find out that they're going to have to do surgery on Ellie in order to actually get the vaccine for it, right? And that doesn't sit with Joel too well.
And the part where you would pull the growth out or
whatever. The infection's in the brain, and
so they'd have to do that.
She can't really survive the surgery, right? Because it's like serious brain surgery.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a moment where it was like I knew what Joel was gonna do there, but I was conflicted at this point. Like after the ending and sitting on the ending, I really loved the ending.
I did too. I liked it as soon as it ended. I was like, that's a fucking awesome ending.
It's very unconventional.
Yeah, that's what I really got out of that I enjoyed.
But it's very real too.
It is. It totally plays into like what you'd expect from that situation.
Can we say what the ending is, just so that because I have a question about the ending too.
Yeah, let's wait to just kind of go over this part. Okay, but the one thing I wanted to say too is that I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt like the cure was like the main goal of this game in a lot of ways. So when they were talking about like sacrificing Ellie, I was at the point where I was kind of like, if she wants to do this, then
well, the whole point of the game is no one ever asks Ellie what she wants.
But no, she says that she wants that, like, you
but
know what I mean?
I don't think at that point she knows she's gonna die for the cure.
At the very end, she does say
when you're with the drafts.
No, she's talking about after.
At the very end, like right before the game ends, she does say what she really
She was
wants.
ready to leave. Like, she said that.
And what actually happens, too, is her desire is completely ignored by Joel. So.
But what do you guys think of, like, that gameplay there leading up to getting to the surgery?
It was really fun. I stealthed my way completely through it. I didn't kill a single enemy, except for I think I killed one, because you know when you you have to go through this quarantine kind of area, and these guys run past, and I hid from them, and then when I get to the door, this one guy comes out who was like late, so I had to kill him.
Oh yeah, he like runs out.
Yeah,
and he's like
and I was like, when he saw me, I'm like, I die because I had almost no health, and so I'm like, maybe I can do this without him seeing me, but every time I tried to get to like a hiding spot, he'd see me, so I was like, okay, you die.
Did you guys listen to the tapes of Marlene speaking?
I only found one.
Yeah.
Did you find the final one?
No.
Okay.
I found the surgeon.
What was it?
Oh yeah, so there was a surgeon one, and then the final
the tape recorder.
Yeah, the very last room they were on the side, there was Marlene speaking, and it was good actually because she seemed like a nice person at the beginning of the game, right? And it kind of painted her dark when you met her up again. That's not her fault, but it's kind of like that's her beliefs. That's what she's going for.
Well, that's the Firefly's goal, is to find a cure.
Yeah, so it's like I understand that, but still she's coming off kind of cold, right?
Well, logically, the whole idea of sacrificing one to save all the people, it makes sense logically.
It does.
But that logic never factors in any sort of emotion. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the cool part with that was that Marlene was talking to this tape recorder, kind of sharing how she felt lots of grief and towards doing this too. Because she says, you know, I've known Ellie since I was born. Yeah. So this means more to me, Joel, than it does to you. And Joel very much like, no, it doesn't. You know, like, you don't know her like I know her. We've been together for 9 months.
We've been through hell
together. That's so true, right? But regardless, it's cool to see her just kind of, you know, speak her mind. Even though we didn't get to actually see her say it, it was her, you know, actually showing these emotions and feelings that made her fill out her character a little bit more before that final scene. So you enter the surgeon's room, and like you said, flamethrower for you, and
violent, vicious, cruel deaths for everyone.
I stood there like 2 minutes. I left the room, came back in. I'm like, where's the button prompt to save the human race? And it didn't come, so I was like, okay. I had the gun, man. I just popped one into the main surgeon, and then the funny part too is that, like, how many brain surgeons are left on this planet at this point?
Well, we don't even know he's a brain surgeon.
Yeah, I guess not.
He could just be a surgeon, or
he could just be some old chum that likes, you know, cutting things
I'm
up.
pretty sure doctors are somewhat trained in every little aspect, but then they go into their speciality. So he probably had some sort of surgery experience.
But he didn't get the opportunity to do it because we saved Ellie.
And plus, though, I don't think we were going to be dealing with the best surgeon ever for obvious reasons, and the fact that, well, Ellie's going to die from this surgery, so I don't think you need the best surgeon.
Yeah, open up the brain, take it out, here we go. I really did, like, enjoy the scene where he's running out holding her in his hands. She's limp because
it was just like when he was carrying his daughter, and then kind of in the opposite order, in the beginning you play as his daughter, and then Joel carries her out. You
Yeah.
play as Joel carrying her out, and then you play as Ellie. For the last.
It's the finality and like again the red herring.
Did you get caught at any point?
No.
No, I got caught once, and they rip Ellie away from you, and he's like, "Give her back," and then they shoot you in the head. They like knock you to the ground, stomp a foot on your chest, and.
Well, I guess that would be game over then.
Yeah.
But
Did not want to see that.
that like this thing
it's
though.
a pretty hardcore scene. I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, like I didn't know what to expect at that point, but it was my thought again was that this seemed like that Red Dead Redemption moment where you open up the barn door and you have the opportunity to save the people that you love. That also means sacrificing yourself / also dying in this moment of glory. Turns out that doesn't really happen. You go down the elevator, Marlene's down there, have a quick chit chat.
Shoot.
No, wait. No, you've ruined it now. Because it doesn't show you what happens right away. It just shows you him driving.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you hear Ellie wake up in the back.
I honestly didn't know if Ellie was going to be there.
I had no idea if Ellie was there or not.
This game threw so many curveballs throughout it that I was just like, okay, Naughty Dog, show me what's going on, because I didn't expect it. Like I didn't expect either way. I'm like, it made sense maybe if Joel let it happen because he's like he realized that was what the whole thing was for, but then. Just that kind of like it's a good feeling, but it's also a sinking feeling when they cut to Ellie and you see her and he shares that lie, and meanwhile while he's sharing these thoughts to her,
it flashes back to what he did.
It is so good. Like the cut back to that is so good.
And I love how he shoots her and then he comes back and shoots her again.
He's like, you just come look for.
Yeah,
and it's so true too.
It is, but it also did that thing as well where it's like. That just shows that compassion where he's like, you are not getting your hands on her.
Not taking her
I'm making sure that this is a done deal. We're going to be good, and we're going away now. And when it cuts back to Jacksonville and all that was a really cool scene because I didn't like.
That was another one of those scenes where they look very human, like the animation is almost perfect on that.
I bet they spent a lot of time really just making that fun.
You can actually see like tears welling up in Ellie's eyes.
Yeah.
Because I like
in the final cutscene.
Yeah, in the final, like you can actually. I've never seen a video game be able to do that before.
Like the way that it did,
tears and stuff are almost unseen in video games.
I mean, when you have seen it, it's like this weird like drip down effect where it doesn't look,
Yeah, tears are. I would imagine they must be really hard to do because you almost never see them.
It's making that realistic, right?
Yeah.
But the part that I really liked about this is that I felt like the game could have ended at winter. Like, when it cut to black there, it wouldn't have felt completely complete, but it was like, that was such a good moment where I'm like, this game can end right now. This could be all right. It could have ended with them in the car.
I think it needed to end the way that it did, though.
No, definitely. I agree with you. It could have ended there, too. The Jacksonville scene was kind of like, you know how movies do that sometimes where it keeps cutting to black and you think the credits are going to come, but there's a little bit more. Yeah. Like, I didn't know that Jacksonville was only going to be like 4 minutes or something like that. But that was a nice moment. Again,
Well, I think that moment was meant to reveal to anybody who still didn't fully understand the type of character Joel was.
Yeah.
That
really hammers it
just
home.
Reveals everything about Joel.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Like, this is my opinion on it. And I really like Joel as a character.
I do too.
But like just him, the way he was talking to her, like I bet you would have loved Sarah. Like he's talking about how like they're very similar and stuff like that. Like it wasn't. I don't know what the perfect word is here. It wasn't creepy, but there was this weird kind of like it was like
where she's
David and
no. I thought it was like now he's at the stage where he's replacing Ellie with his daughter.
Yeah, it didn't.
Or I mean, replacing his daughter.
It felt a little weird. That's how I felt. I really enjoyed the whole scene. I thought that added more to it too.
I didn't get a weird feeling from it. Like I thought, okay, now he's like, he is in every sense now her father.
Yeah, it was just like this continuation of him stitching her into his life, right? And like that was kind of like the final moments of like that really kind of compacting
too, because originally he's trying to keep her as distant as possible, while getting her to the destination.
We talked about I think the scene in the house where that was a big conflict.
He's trying to ignore every emotion that he has towards her, and then it kind of flips, and now he's trying to.
It's the turning point.
He's trying to integrate her into his life.
Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, that final scene where it's like he already lied to her once, but then when she confronts him,
he's like, "Hey."
I thought the best part of that too is he does not hesitate for a second in his answer.
And a thing I got from that is that because she knew that he was lying too.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Do you guys think
she knew that he was lying? She needed to be told that too. Like it was this weird moment where she needed to be lied to, so that she
needed
could
to know it was okay that she was alive.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that is just. It's not that grand blockbuster ending. It is a cut to black like they did so many times in this game, but it is so powerful. And like, you know, you can pull so many things from it. You can take it very simple in the fact that, like we said, this is Joel, you know, being able to live out his life hopefully in happiness, you know, and her trying to get some actual clarity to the whole situation. But then we talked about, like, I think the thing that we need to come to there as well is that, like, even if she did sacrifice herself for the vaccine, like, would that have actually worked? Would it have even made a difference? You know,
would they be able to extract something that even made a vaccine?
Because
how did they even dispense it? You know,
the way they said they were going to do it was they would reverse engineer the virus, or the fungus. And I'm not a scientist, but there's really no guarantee that that's gonna work.
Could work, but even if it did work, how would you distribute it? How like what type of effects would it have? I think the world has already gone so far into this, like there's no turning back. You know, maybe a couple of years down the line where most of society's still safe zones are in place, most of society's pretty good. I mean, I think there's been movies in cases like that where, you know, connected to a zombie type of scenario when it's an early breakout or something like that, and then people are able to have these quarantine zones where here's the vaccine, then thousands of people in that safe zone are good. But like Boston was one of the few quarantine zones. Like a city like Pittsburgh is gone. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Like I felt very. You said that you liked the ending immediately. I enjoyed the ending, but it took me I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I sat back and I watched the whole credits, just thinking like that. What?
Yeah, and it was.
Well, I watched the whole credits thinking that was just the right ending.
And I think that's awesome that we all kind of feel that way. I wanted to go back to voice actors, though. I just wanted to say that that's one of the big things that made this game for me. Like how well Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson played their characters.
Yeah.
And
I was a little hesitant when people were like, "Yeah, it's the guy who did Booker."
Completely different.
I would not have known if someone didn't tell me. There's no way I would have known.
Such a strong performance, both of them, and I feel like Ellie. I really preached on how strong of a character I thought Elizabeth was in BioShock Infinite. But Ellie is just as strong, if not stronger, I think, of the character.
She is stronger.
And I mean,
Elizabeth
in my opinion,
crap.
What?
Nothing.
You just said Elizabeth was crap?
Compared to Ellie.
Yeah, I think the Last of Us blows BioShock Infinite out of the water.
You play the game and you really comparatively you didn't see BioShock Infinite as great of a game as me and Gage kind of did immediately when we played it, which is totally cool.
I felt it was just the story in BioShock Infinite was really good.
Yeah.
But the gameplay was it was a gauntlet of enemies that you just shot through. This
game, that's how they pace this game compared to how they pace BioShock Infinite is one of the main reasons why this game is so much better. And I feel like Naughty Dog they're just masters of the art of what they do. And I'm so excited to see what the other Naughty Dog studios working on it.
Because this just popped into my mind, because Uncharted doesn't play too much differently.
No,
The Last of Us.
Pretty similar in lots of ways.
Pretty much the combat mechanics are almost the exact same.
It's just they take what that is and then they refine it, and then they also change what the dynamic of what's going on.
Yeah, well, they changed the whole tone of the fighting is a lot different.
Uncharted, you got 50 clips in your, or not 50 clips, but 50 shots of your rifle,
unlimited ammo,
and you got unlimited enemies coming at you.
Yeah.
I think we talked about in the past how Nathan Drake's very much that smile on his face, killed thousands of people type of character.
Whereas Joel goes into a room with two people and it's like, oh, how am I going to get out of this one?
Yeah. It's a lot more powerful in its actual message because less is more in what it does.
One other thing I really like about the combat that I think we overlooked is when you get into a melee fight, kind of.
Yeah.
It isn't someone who's really good at punching and doing all this. It's not Batman where he knows exactly what to do. He is just trying to beat this person.
given
brutally too.
Yeah.
Like it's
And
not
He
nice.
slams their faces
One of
into
the things I
walls.
noticed too was with the melee, you actually encounter people who seem to be better at fighting than you are.
Yeah.
And you have
Which
to,
is
like,
very
dodge and
rare in
things like
video
that.
games. Which I can't really think of any video game where
Makes
the
you feel like a
guys are-
normal character.
Yeah, I can't think of any game where the NPC you're fighting is actually a more skilled fighter than you are.
I'm really tired as well. I just want to share that. I'm really tired of the power fantasy in video games. I'm like games like this are so much more potent to me just because of the fact that they give me this world and a situation that I can believe in a little bit more. Maybe they do have like Ellie can say, you know, be the cure, but I played so many games like on, you know, I guess Mass Effect's a pretty good example where that became the all story in the way where you're the savior.
You're the chosen one.
Yeah.
Halo 4, you're the chosen one.
Whereas with this game, The Last of Us,
You're just another man.
You're just a guy
trying to survive.
Whereas you could make the argument that Ellie's the chosen one.
Yeah.
You could make that argument because she is the only known character who's.
But even at the end, you don't complete what she is chosen to do.
Mm.
Yeah, but you can make
It
the
gives the
argument
story a
that
purpose,
she
right?
had the potential to be the one.
Yeah.
Right. But even at that, you're not playing as that person. You're playing as a pretty much actually a side character, really.
Yeah. I liked how they really mixed it up too.
Joel is essentially he's a supporting character.
Ellie really takes the like her performance and like how she was portrayed really hits out of the park.
I think it was meant to be like that too. It was meant to be that you're not playing as the main character.
Ellie's the focus in a lot of ways. I think it really is about Joel's story too, but Ellie's the main purpose of what's going on there.
Ellie's the focus of Joel's story, so.
Yeah. I wanted to jump back just to say, like, in regards to BioShock Infinite, when I played that earlier on this year, I was looking, I think 2012 was a year that we didn't get a lot of amazing games. We got some really cool games. Yeah. Sleeping Dogs, XCOM were neat, Dishonored as well.
Just got it. It was a good game. Don't even try. You liked it. You played it. You're like, this is a good game.
But BioShock was on that another level for me, and it was like that kind of that refresher, right? So I really enjoyed that. But
I think BioShock, in terms of story, was certainly a step up from what was in 2012.
Yeah.
Which I think made it probably seem at first play.
Pedestal a little bit.
Yeah, maybe put it on a pedestal a bit because there was a bit
I still really like BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, I wanted to share this too, but the point I wanted to get across with that was that I really enjoyed the game. I had a great time with it, but it was crazy. Like I was saying a lot of great things, and I still stand by a lot of the stuff I said because that's a great game. But the fact that like The Last of Us just came into our picture a week ago, and how in almost every regard of how it was executed, I was just like, this is a game that I can rarely it's hard to compare The Last of Us to any other game because of just the way it's executed. It's really hard. I think you
can compare it to Infinite a lot. Just in terms of plot, because
there is a lot of connections to that. Yeah,
kind of a lot of like they're both.
It's the eco premise of protecting someone.
Yeah, sort of like an escort game.
Yeah, escort without the actual like, oh, this is an escort mission.
Escort.
Yeah, the way they do that's really good.
One other thing I want to say. Escort missions without being escort missions.
One other thing I want to say about the combat in Last of Us. It is truly like rough and draining, and it doesn't feel like you can beat everything.
Yeah.
No.
Like after you play that game for a couple hours, it's like you're tired mentally, and it's just like you want to keep going because it's really fun, but it's also just like tough.
That world really brings you in and makes you just like, this is a struggle. This is a challenge.
It sells every feeling that it
of a post-apocalypse. Yeah.
Like when Joel and Ellie are scared, you're scared. Like you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And when they're sad, you're quiet and attentive, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it
nails
you're drawn into the story really well. So they do a very good job with that.
Let's move on to our final verdicts on the game. So if you've never listened to one of our spoiler casts or reviews on our regular show, we use our review scale where we base stuff on value of a game. So saying to you guys what a game's kind of worth in our eyes, what it stands out to us as. And we have classic at the very top being a 10, 9.5, 9 is a must-play game you should really check out. 8.5, 8 is a full price. Below that, got a price drop. Steam sale bargain bin, and then you get into these other categories where it's not that great of a game, but it's based on the idea of
price,
a game's value, and like what we really thought of the experience.
Is it worth buying new? Is it worth buying a couple months down the road?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Like, say you're one of those people who only buys 3 games a year.
You
can
use the
scale to kind of figure out which of the games.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it like that. If you're more of an avid gamer where you're buying 8 or 10 a year, then that's kind of fits into that a little bit more. We buy more than that more often than not, but I mean...
Bought like 8 games in the last 2 months.
Yeah. So we bring...
I get like a game a month.
Yeah.
So,
You're in that category a little bit more, which I think is really cool when we come and we talk about games with you sometimes. Yet I think you are a little bit more harsh on games sometimes too, which is like, it's nice to see that because it's a different perspective of what a value of a game is, right?
I think I'm more harsh on games that aren't Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, you have the Assassin's Creed bias over there, but everything else, you know.
But everything else, I'm pretty.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll start off with you, Gage.
Okay, 10.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 10. This is I always, when I think of my favorite game, it's Shadow of the Colossus, and I honestly like this game better than Shadow of the Colossus. I think the story was really, really good, and what I really like about Shadow of the Colossus is the gameplay, climbing on things, but I honestly like the gameplay of this more than Shadow of the Colossus, and I think this might be one of my favorite games, like, of the generation that I've played all these past 7 or 8 years, or however long this console has been out.
I'm really excited to see what other games come out this year as well, because I feel like this is a strong year for video games, but The Last of Us, it's hard to really explain, but it's such an amazing experience that I think I'm going to try and tell everybody that they should, you know,
I have a friend who doesn't have a PS3, and he's like, I think I kind of want to play Last of Us. I'm like, you need to play this game. Take this.
Here you go.
Give it back to me before Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah. So I mean, with that, I guess the part that really standed out for you the most was.
It was just a combination of everything. I really disliked the way that Joel and Ellie interacted, though.
Yeah.
And
their actual dialogue.
Yeah, it felt really genuine and real.
I think the other part too that's neat about that is that the gameplay doesn't drag this experience down. It is just maybe not as strong as the story, because the story is very, very solid. It's an amazing experience, but
it's the right type of gameplay for the story. It's a realistic, challenging, survival type gameplay.
It couples with the experience.
Yeah, when people say there's those games where it's like you can't kill everyone, usually it's like with Dishonored you can totally kill everyone. Like, I like Dishonored. You can totally not kill anyone in that game. But you could easily, if you wanted to, kill everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Problem.
You have
It'd be pretty
easy.
The
ability to kill everyone.
In this game, you could not do that.
Yeah.
Like, it would be impossible.
There's, like, if you have enough ammunition throughout the whole game, sure. But you don't.
Yeah. You have, like, 5 bullets.
Yeah. And there's actually probably times where you can't because there's just too many enemies. Right?
Yeah.
Even if you had the ammunition to do it, there's too many. They're going to get to you before you can kill all of them. So,
Mike, what's your verdict on the game?
Okay, I think it was definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. For sure. It's as good as games get, in my opinion. And I don't mean that in, like, the next gen. Obviously, games are going to get better in terms of, technical stuff like graphics, everything, gameplay probably be better, environments be better, all that stuff. But just the combination of everything combined with this kind of story, you're not gonna find a game that is better.
Really gripping.
Yeah, like this is a game that is peaking its console. Like this used every bit of the console.
Every button was pressed to make this happen.
Yeah, this is the peak of the generation for sure.
Yeah, and I'm so like, I think the thing that's gonna be really cool coming in the future is I'm very excited to see what Naughty Dog does on next gen consoles.
Yes.
Like I think that there's gonna be
this is a weird thing for Naughty Dog too, because I looked it up on Wikipedia. They've only done one IP for each console. This is the first time they've ever done 2 IPs for a console.
That's true. They have now 2 studios. But I guess one thing I want to ask you guys too before I move on to my verdict on it was that do you guys think that there's going to be another game set in this universe? Because they said they're not going to make another game with Ellie and Joel. This is the last one.
I think there could be. I think it would be different.
Yeah.
And I think there would definitely be DLC. Like I said, I probably think it'll be ish.
There is going to be DLC.
Yeah, because there's a menu on there.
Season pass that they're selling already.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, there's already a season pass too. So
there will be DLC. I don't want a sequel.
No, I don't.
This is good enough. This is the story that they set out to tell, and if they do a sequel, it's not going to be the same. It's going to have such high expectations, and I guarantee you it won't live up to those expectations.
I've seen so many people like on comment section saying Last of Us 2, and I'm like, no, just this is such a great experience. And to think of it this way, they had only made this generation Uncharted. We had no expectations for this game being as good as that series.
This is a bonus, really. It's like a bonus.
Imagine if they come out next generation with a new IP. Like, it could be a hit or a miss, but what if it is a hit again? Like, I want different experiences from this team that can make great games.
This game pretty much has vaulted Naughty Dog to the top of developers for consoles anyways.
I am just going to let Naughty Dog do whatever it does, and I will
go ahead.
I think they're pretty much the undisputed best console developer out there.
Easily, I can't go that far, but I can easily dispute, or not dispute, but say that they're, out of all the studios that Sony has in their stable, they are now the AAA. Yeah. They are the go-to horse, if you want to call it that.
They are the Bungie, or were.
Yeah, they are the 343 studios now? I don't know.
Well, like, I guess Xbox original Bungie.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Back when Bungie was owned by Xbox.
Halo 1 and Halo 2, they're that Bungie.
The team that you wanted to see what they were doing next. I felt like Uncharted was a solid game, but Uncharted 2 was that next-gen experience on this generation that really stepped it up for Naughty Dog. Yeah. I think they hit that level. Like, they've been getting 10 out of 10s on their games for the past 3 games that they made. You know, like these...
Did they get it 10 out of 10 on Uncharted 3?
It depends on who you're looking at. IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, for example. But, I mean, like, it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of actual ratings on this stuff. But, I mean, for me, I look at them since Uncharted 2 as this top studio. And this is just, like, them even stepping it up even more. So, for me, the game is a 10 out of 10. It's a classic as well. And I will be very surprised if we ever... unanimously agree to give a game
another
10s across the board like this. But this game is so special for that. I want to sit on, I want to, think about it more in regards to other games, but this definitely is the best Naughty Dog game that has ever been created.
I think it's the best PlayStation game that's ever been created.
I think it's the best game this generation from PlayStation. I want to still think of other games.
It's that and Shadow of the Colossus are those two.
I want to see how our opinions change over time.
Yeah, I think we talked about BioShock. At least for me, I came out swinging with my, praise for BioShock Infinite. The one thing that I look back on that...
this is different, though, than BioShock.
I do, too. I want to... after that experience, I want to sit back on it.
This didn't have this sort of cut and dry, good guy, bad guy sort of thing.
I'm interested to see when, like, Beyond Two Souls or Watch Dogs or GTA 5, another game that's, like, these Game of the Year candidates, what we'll think of this game then.
I think now, though, like, I had my anticipation for The Last of Us kind of set down a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting my hopes up that much, but I thought BioShock Infinite was very solid, but I thought if there was going to be any other game this year that could be it was going to be The Last of Us. Now... it's a matter of us sitting back and watching what the other teams that are going to be making games this year can bring to the table. Because I think, GTA 5 is going to be something special for like a closing to this generation of games. I don't think it'll hit this level, but I'm excited to play that. I'm excited to play Watch Dogs. There's so many awesome stuff coming out this year too.
I think just because this is what I would imagine this is going to be the game of the year.
Yeah.
Like I can't really see other games being better. There might be,
and it'll be cool too. Actually, the thing I want to say is that our expectations for everything else will be a little bit lower now, just because of the fact that we just played this this gem, right?
So, but what I'm saying is, this is probably going to be the game of the year from what I can see.
Yeah.
But we don't know that obviously. But also, that doesn't mean the other games aren't good.
No. Like I think it's going to be a real great year for video games.
Yeah, we got a good
there's
lineup.
A lot of good games coming out.
You got Saints Row the 4th Saints Row.
You don't start off that.
You are the president.
Saints Row.
I think Watch Dogs and Grand Theft Auto are the top ones coming out this fall. Beyond Two Souls, I'm excited to play, but I'm not getting my expectations up for that.
Was different looking.
I think Assassin's Creed 4 is going to be really good.
Also,
but actually, that's a legitimate thing.
I do too.
Because I was thinking when we were watching E3, I was like, you know what? This game's going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well,
I think
expectations
Assassin's Creed is now the Call of Duty of the action-adventure genre.
It is. But I think this... I'm really excited for the pirate thing.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of that they're doing all the ships and stuff.
I love Assassin's Creed as well. It's on my top 10 favorite, but we were kind of getting off topic.
I wanted to finish up and just saying that, I mean, the reason why Last of Us 10 for me is just story, like we said. It's something that they kept throwing the curveballs, they kept changing it up. The gameplay was there all the time, you know, really standing strong with it too. The actual characters and how they interact with each other, these really emotional scenes. As a gamer, being wrapped up in this story, being immersed in what was going on. And then just to top it off, the world being, like you said, they were pushing the PS3 to the max to make it look the way it did.
Can you think of any game where you saw like tears well up in people's eyes? Or like you can see individual hairs on Joel's beard and stuff? Like
they pushed it. I think this is the best looking PS3 game.
When it does close-ups of Ellie, you can see like the little crinkles on her lips and stuff like that. Like that's insane amount of detail.
Lastly, the soundtrack to this game too, just kind of like that cherry on top in a way. Like those moments, like that moment where you're staring at the giraffes, and the other moments where it's like it cuts to black and there's just like a couple chords.
Music. There's actually a little Easter egg some people have found where the composer, who's won an Oscar, he has this pose kind of like this, where he has the Oscar high in this hand and his other hand's in a fist like low.
Yeah.
And if the picture of Joel and his daughter while she's holding her soccer trophy is very like she's in the same pose.
Yeah.
And I thought that was neat.
That's kind of cool.
Could be coincidence, but
yeah,
it could be.
It's very. I like all the little touches in this game are so strong.
I think that the soundtrack of this game is Oscar worthy, or not Oscar, sorry, Grammy worthy or whatever.
Journey got nominated for a Grammy last year. This game deserves to be in that mention category for Grammy next year.
If you think about soundtracks, it's like Journey and The Last of Us soundtracks are on the same level.
Yeah, I don't know. This game just did it for me. I'm so happy with it. I'm happy that I had that experience. I can't wait to go back to the world that I've already been in before. But Naughty Dog did it. They made it a great game. We've all agreed that we really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed
Bravo, Naughty Dog.
Yes.
Bravo.
I hope you guys enjoyed our Checkpoint Achieved Last of Us Spoilercast. We're going to be doing more of these in the future, so you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to us on iTunes. You can also send us in questions at checkpointachieved@gmail.com. We post up the videos of these two on YouTube at Brydo, BRYDO0. And you can follow me on Twitter at the same account as well. Gage, you want to plug your Twitter?
Gage24Paul.
Sounds so sad.
You know what I hate? My
What?
birthday is on the 24th, so I made that like Gage24Paul. But now I realize it just sounds like I'm some like douchey partier who's just like 24 hours a day. And it would be worse if I added the month, because that's the July. It's the 7th. Gage 24/7 Paul.
That would have been awesome.
Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll see you around in the future.